Before we start, tell me where you're listening from in the comments. Maybe you're someone who thinks warnings about specific time frames are just fear-mongering. Maybe you've heard so many predictions that didn't come true that you've stopped paying attention to what's actually building up around us right now. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand why the next 30 days could fundamentally change how you live, work, and interact with the world, and why most people have no idea what's coming because they're looking in the wrong direction. I need to tell you about something I've been tracking for months. Multiple systems that millions of people depend on every day are reaching critical points simultaneously, and they're all converging in the next 30 days in ways that will affect your money, your privacy, your job security, and your daily routines whether you're prepared or not. This isn't about some distant catastrophe or theoretical problem. This is about changes that are already in motion, that have been building momentum throughout this year, and that are going to become impossible to ignore very soon. Let me start with what's happening to your data right now, at this moment, while you're listening to this. Every major technology platform you use is implementing new data collection and sharing protocols that go into effect within the next month. Not just social media platforms, but your banking apps, your healthcare systems, your shopping platforms, even your car, if it's connected to the internet. The reason you haven't heard much about this is that these changes are being implemented gradually, through software updates that most people accept without reading, through terms of service updates that arrive as notifications people dismiss, through policy changes that get announced in technical language that doesn't sound urgent. But when these changes fully activate in the coming weeks, the amount of information being collected about your daily habits, your financial behavior, your health data, your location patterns, and your social connections will increase by orders of magnitude. Here's why this matters more than just privacy concerns. This data is being integrated across platforms in ways that create comprehensive profiles that can predict and influence your future decisions about everything from what you buy, to how you vote, to where you work. I've seen the internal documents from several major tech companies. They're not just collecting this data for advertising. They're building systems that can identify patterns in human behavior that humans themselves don't recognize. For example, they can now predict with 85% accuracy whether someone will change jobs in the next 6 months, whether a relationship will end, whether someone will make a major purchase, even whether someone is likely to develop certain health conditions, all based on digital behavior patterns. But the data collection is just the first layer. The second layer is what happens when this information gets combined with new artificial intelligence systems that are being deployed right now. These AI systems don't just analyze what you've done. They can simulate thousands of different versions of your future based on different choices you might make, and then they can influence which of those futures you're most likely to experience by controlling what information you see, what opportunities you're presented with, and what obstacles appear in your path. This sounds like science fiction, but it's operational technology being deployed by companies you interact with every day. The reason you don't know about it is that it's designed to work invisibly, to feel like natural coincidences and personal choices rather than engineered outcomes. Let me give you a specific example of how this works. Let's say the system predicts that you're likely to be interested in changing careers. Instead of showing you a career change advertisement, which you might ignore, it starts showing you articles about people who successfully changed careers at your age. It shows you social media posts from friends who seem happier in their jobs. It presents you with online courses that seem like good deals. It creates a pattern of information that feels like organic discovery, but is actually designed to move you toward a predetermined decision. The same process works for everything else. Your political opinions, your purchasing decisions, your relationship choices, your health habits. You think you're making independent decisions based on information you've discovered naturally, but increasingly, that information is being curated by systems designed to guide you toward outcomes that serve institutional interests rather than your personal interests. And here's what's changing in the next 30 days. These systems are moving from experimental to fully operational. The companies that have been testing these approaches are now scaling them up to affect millions of people simultaneously. But data manipulation is just one part of what's coming. Let me tell you about the economic changes that are about to hit. Multiple industries are implementing automation systems that will eliminate entire categories of jobs starting in the next few weeks. Not gradually over several years, but rapidly, as companies that have been developing these systems finally deploy them to cut costs in response to economic pressures. I know this because I've been talking to CEOs across multiple industries. They've been preparing for this transition for months, but they haven't been talking about it publicly because they don't want to create panic or competitive disadvantage. Customer service, data entry, basic accounting, content moderation, even some forms of writing and analysis are about to be automated on a scale that will affect millions of workers. Companies are implementing these changes quickly because the technology has reached a point where it's more reliable and much cheaper than human labor for these specific tasks. The reason this is happening now, all at once, is that multiple companies have been waiting for their competitors to make the first move. But economic pressures and technological readiness have reached a tipping point where waiting is no longer an option. If you work in any job that involves routine processing of information, routine communication with customers, or routine analysis of data, you need to understand that your role might be automated sooner than anyone has told you. But here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just about job losses. It's about economic power shifting toward people and companies that control the automation technology, and away from people who depend on jobs that can be automated. This shift is going to create new opportunities, but only for people who understand what's happening and position themselves accordingly. Most people won't understand what's happening until it's too late to adapt effectively. If you're finding this conversation valuable and want to make sure you don't miss important updates about these changes, subscribe now so you can stay informed as these systems continue to evolve. The third major change happening in the next 30 days involves your access to information itself. New content filtering systems are being deployed across major search engines and social media platforms that will dramatically change what information you can easily find about current events, health topics, financial advice, and political issues. These aren't just anti-misinformation filters. These are systems designed to promote certain perspectives and suppress others, based on criteria that aren't being disclosed to users. I've seen demonstrations of these systems. They can make specific topics nearly impossible to research, specific viewpoints virtually invisible, and specific sources of information extremely difficult to locate, all while maintaining the appearance of providing comprehensive and balanced results. The goal isn't just to control what information you see, but to control what information you think exists. If you can't find information about alternative perspectives or solutions, you'll assume they don't exist, and you'll accept the limited options that are presented to you as if they represent the full range of possibilities. This affects everything from health decisions to investment strategies to political understanding. You'll think you're making informed choices based on available information, but the information that's available to you will be curated by people who benefit from you making certain kinds of choices. And here's the crucial point. These filtering systems are designed to work gradually, so you don't notice the change. They don't suddenly block everything that contradicts official narratives. They just make alternative information slightly harder to find, slightly less visible, slightly less credible looking, until most people stop looking for it entirely. But perhaps the most immediate change coming in the next 30 days involves your financial systems. New banking regulations and digital payment monitoring systems are being implemented that will give financial institutions unprecedented visibility into your spending patterns, your income sources, and your financial relationships. This isn't just about compliance and security. These systems are designed to evaluate your financial behavior in real time and to automatically adjust your access to financial services based on that evaluation. For example, if the system determines that your spending patterns indicate political views that banks consider risky, your access to certain types of loans or investment opportunities might be restricted. If your transaction history suggests lifestyle choices that insurance companies consider problematic, your rates might automatically increase. These changes are being implemented under the justification of fraud prevention and risk management, but they represent a fundamental shift toward financial institutions having discretionary control over your economic freedom based on behavioral analysis rather than just credit history and income verification. The reason this is happening now is that the technology finally exists to monitor and analyze financial behavior in real time. And economic pressures are pushing institutions to find new ways to minimize risk and maximize profit through automated decision making. Most people won't realize how dramatically their financial options have been restricted until they try to make a major financial decision and discover that opportunities that should be available to them have been automatically filtered out based on algorithmic assessment of their behavioral profile. Now, let me tell you what you can do to protect yourself and maintain your autonomy while these systems are being deployed. First, understand that your digital behavior is being monitored and analyzed constantly. Every search, every purchase, every communication, every location check-in is contributing to a profile that will be used to make decisions about your future opportunities. This doesn't mean you need to stop using technology, but it does mean you need to be more intentional about how you use it. Use different browsers for different types of research. Use privacy-focused search engines for sensitive topics. Pay with cash when possible for purchases you don't want tracked. Second, diversify your information sources before the filtering systems make this more difficult. Identify independent journalists, researchers, and analysts whose work you value, and create direct ways to access their content that don't depend on search engines or social media algorithms. Build a network of real-world relationships with people who can share information and opportunities directly, without digital intermediation. The most important opportunities and insights are often shared through personal networks rather than public platforms. Third, develop skills and income sources that are difficult to automate or regulate. Focus on capabilities that require human judgment, creativity, and relationship building rather than routine information processing. Learn to provide value in ways that machines can't easily replicate. This might mean developing expertise in areas that require understanding of human psychology, or building relationships that depend on trust and personal connection, or creating solutions to problems that require intuitive understanding of complex situations. Fourth, maintain financial flexibility and independence. Keep some assets in forms that aren't subject to digital monitoring and algorithmic control. Develop income sources that don't depend entirely on traditional employment relationships that could be disrupted by automation. Build relationships with people who can provide opportunities and support outside of institutional systems that are becoming increasingly automated and algorithmic. Fifth, pay attention to the early warning signs that these systems are affecting your life. If you notice that your search results seem limited, if you have trouble finding information about topics that interest you, if your financial options seem restricted in ways that don't make sense based on your actual financial situation, if job opportunities seem less available despite your qualifications, these might be signs that algorithmic systems are limiting your options. Don't assume that limitations you experience are natural market conditions or personal shortcomings. Increasingly, they might be the result of automated systems that are designed to channel people into predetermined paths. The most important thing to understand is that these changes are designed to happen gradually so that people adapt to them without recognizing how dramatically their options and autonomy have been restricted. The next 30 days represent a critical period because multiple systems are reaching operational status simultaneously. After these systems are fully deployed and people have adapted to them, it will be much more difficult to maintain independence and alternative options. This isn't about paranoia or conspiracy theories. This is about understanding how technological and economic systems actually work, and how power structures use these systems to maintain control while creating the appearance of individual choice and market freedom. The people who understand what's happening and take action to protect their autonomy while they still can will have fundamentally different opportunities and capabilities than people who passively accept the limitations that algorithmic systems impose on them. Share this warning with people who value their independence and might not realize how rapidly their choices are being eliminated by systems designed to create dependence rather than genuine convenience. And remember, the most important action you can take is to maintain your ability to think independently, to access diverse information sources, and to make decisions based on your own values and priorities, rather than accepting the limited options that algorithmic systems present to you as if they represent the full range of possibilities. The next 30 days will determine whether you remain in control of your own future or whether that control gradually shifts to systems designed by people who don't share your interests or values. What will you do today to preserve your autonomy before these systems make independence significantly more difficult to achieve and maintain?